Hello, my name is Dr. Bryce Call. I am the Assistant Professor of Trumpet here at Washburn University. Today we will be working through the 3 jazz etudes for the KMEA All-State Trumpet Audition. The first etude is based on the jazz standard Triste by Jobim. This is a bossa nova feel, so the 8th notes will be straight, not swung. It's important in order to get the right feel for this excerpt to go and listen to as many recordings as you can, different versions of this song. You don't have a dynamic indication until the crescendos in the second line and the forte at the end. I prefer to keep this on the softer side at the beginning and build my way through the etude, not keeping it from getting too loud at the beginning. I also like to play this in a somewhat laid-back feel. It would be great to listen to a recording of Triste and play along this etude with that recording so that you can get a sense of what it feels like to play this with a rhythm section. It's also important to note that in jazz music, a lot of the time the slur markings, or what look like slur markings, are really just phrase markings intended to keep everything smooth and connected. So while there are many slur markings that look like notes should be slurred, not tongued, feel free to add in inflections or light tongue to aid in some of these articulations. I like to tongue the first 3 notes so that that staccato note is more crisp. The staccato notes in the 9th measure should be kept from being too short. They can be separated, and make sure that you tongue each note individually, but keep them from getting too pointy or too punchy. We want them to still have this laid-back quality of the bossa nova. The second etude is based on Duke Ellington's In a Sentimental Mood. This is a great chance for you to demonstrate your sound, your vibrato, your musical phrasing, and your timekeeping in a ballad feel. Again, these 8th notes will be straight, and the quarter note equals 68. So make sure you practice with a tempo so that you don't, or with a metronome so that you don't rush or drag the tempo. This is especially important in the first full measure with the high A on a whole note. It's easy to either drag and add more time or rush and not count through the whole measure. But this is a great chance for you to show your crescendo leading up to a high A, your best sound, an appropriate vibrato, and a decrescendo. There is a lot of musicality that you can put into this high A. When you get to measure 4, we have a squiggly line from an F sharp to a B. This is a little glissando. There's a couple ways that we can do this. One is to play a diatonic scale, moving down from F sharp to B. Another way that you could do the gliss is by using a combination of half valves and sort of squeezing your way through, trying to sound like a trombone player moving their slide out. Try to think of the optional lead trumpet excerpt as a chance for you to demonstrate your best musicality in the upper register of the trumpet. What the judges will be looking for is not who can play the highest or the loudest, but who can play in the upper register of the horn in a musical fashion. You still want to keep using your best sound as you get in there, although it can become strident or piercing. Listen to various lead trumpet players to get an idea of how you might want this to sound. In order to do the bend on the high B, you'll want to practice doing lip bends an octave below, and then approaching it on the high B later. The bend really just means that we will be playing a B natural, using our lips to play flat below the pitch and bringing it back up. You can do this with just the lips, and that's what's preferred. Or if it's easier, you can play with a half valve to help you get down below. Again, the slur markings are really phrase markings to tell you to keep everything smooth and connected. I prefer to tongue the high E to make sure that I'm very accurate with that note, but I try to do it in a smooth way so that it doesn't stick out from the rest of the phrase. As you are practicing these high notes, it's important to practice them softly at first so that you build the embouchure strength and coordination and develop it in such a way that you have control over the high notes. So practice in the upper register very quietly, and eventually you'll add some volume, add a little bit more power. But you want to be sure that your embouchure is well developed before attempting to add the air behind it. The high notes really don't take very much air. The difference between a high note and a low note is how fast the vibration is. So the higher the note is actually just a little bit of fast air, and the lower notes are a little bit more slower air. That's how I like to think of it. So as I'm going a little bit higher, I try not to push too much air through my trumpet. I just keep it nice and supported and think about moving the air quickly. The third etude is your chance to demonstrate a little bit of improvisation. Now, you only have 16 measures to improvise before the written etude, so come right out of the gate with your best stuff. It's important to know that all of the musical theory and all the scales that you practice to prepare for this, it is more important for the judges and the listener that you play coherent musical phrases and ideas in time than you play the right notes. So I would rather hear some wrong notes played in time in a musical way in a coherent idea than to play the correct scale without commitment or without a coherent idea that makes musical sense. So practice with 2-bar phrases or 4-bar phrases. Practice along with your favorite recording of There Will Never Be Another You, and get an idea of how your favorite players play. Try to transcribe different players improvising over the song so that you can get some ideas of their vocabulary and how they phrase. When you get to the end of the etude, for the second half in the written section, you'll use what's called bebop articulation. Essentially, when you have a string of running eighth notes, you'll be tonguing the upbeats and slurring to the downbeats. So tonguing every other note in a smooth way, not being choppy. So that sounds like you're saying da dee ya dee ya dee ya dee ya dee ya dee ya. For this etude, feel free to add some inflections in the music. You can do some bends, or you can slightly lay back the time if you play it musically. On the last line, the second measure, measure 30, the D can be ghosted. This will make the passage a little bit easier to play. It means that you swallow it up a little bit. It doesn't get the full volume. It's almost like it doesn't quite speak. Instead of playing da dee ya dee ya dat, you'll play da 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 doo dat. You'll be ghosting the lower note to help the other notes come out a little bit more. Thank you for watching. Again, my name is Dr. Bryce Call, the Assistant Professor of Trumpet here at Washburn University. I hope some of this has been helpful for you. If you would like or are interested in private lessons, feel free to reach out to me using the contact information in the video description below.